Tristan Law Show. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Tristan Law, retired pro wrestler, and today, I'm your host. We are going to be talking about WWE Unreal Episode 2 today. And this is the second episode of a 5, maybe 6-part episode arc of WWE Unreal. Instead of breaking it all down in just one episode like I did in the previous season, we're going to be breaking down episode by episode to give everything the opportunity to breathe on its own. Episode 2 of WWE Unreal is called The Truth. And immediately for me, that raised immediately raised a question. If this show is supposed to be unreal, to where it's telling the truth, the question now is, whose truth is actually being shown? When you look at episode 1 sold us the grind, the sacrifice, nobody taking days off. Episode 2 shows what happens when now it's time to pay the bill, when the tax man cometh. And this is not about exposing the WWE. This is about how WWE defines honesty. Emotional truth is allowed. Business reality gets managed, and that tension is what this episode is really about. And that's what we're going to be talking about today on today's episode of the Tristan Law Show. Whether you're watching live or on demand, is fully interactive. Don't just watch. Talk. We're talking about episode 2 of season 2 of WWE Unreal. If you loved it, let me know. If you hated it, let me know. And there's also a survey going on. Yeah! And the survey says, did episode 2 make WWE feel more human or more corporate? Let me know what you think. Looking at the whole entire thing with Unreal, let's talk about the tension that's more clear than with some more than we thought. R-Truth. The episode isn't really about R-Truth released. I think it's more about respect. And we also learned as well, too, that R-Truth, he didn't really get released in the WWE. It was just a miscommunication. He was on the Breakfast Club. And on the Breakfast Club, he said that it was his first time using an agent. And this is what happened with R-Truth. So he was never technically fired. He was just never released. But WWE Unreal, this episode, it frames R-Truth as being beloved, trusted, a locker room favorite. The company does acknowledge his contributions. Triple H and everybody else in the video, or Paul Levesque, I don't know if he wants to be called Paul or Triple H. I guess it depends on how you know him. But R-Truth is positioned as, they put him over. They make him look good. Because in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't a stalemate. They liked R-Truth. It was the stalemate. It wasn't a firing. They never fired the guy. The tweet that he sent out on Twitter, it was impulsive. It was not the right thing for R-Truth to do it at the moment. It was probably something he should have held off on and just immediately just sending that tweet. But you know what, though? The tweet wasn't more about the money, right? Thinking about it now, getting time to think about it, getting time to reflect on it and hear some of the sides from the whole entire deal. I think it was more about feeling unseen after decades of service. When R-Truth got released, fired, or whatever happened with the contract, I was here in front of my microphone, and one of the things that I said is that R-Truth doesn't get enough respect. R-Truth is the first Black NWA World Heavyweight Champion. First. The first Black Heavyweight Champion in TNA. He didn't get any respect for that. Granted, that happens over in TNA, so whatever, if it didn't happen in WWE, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I get that. But R-Truth was in the WWE as K-Quick in the 90s. He left, came back as R-Truth, Ron the Truth Killings. That's why I always say, when it comes to your decades of service, when it comes to you being a company man, sometimes you've just got to do what you've got to do. Because at the end of the day, corporate America will always do what corporate America does best. And you know what that is? That's look out for themselves. Look out for their bottom line. They don't care about us. Your job doesn't care that you worked 25 years as a cashier at Walmart. You were the #1 cashier. You made sure there was no lines, and you always took care of your customers no matter whether they were angry or happy. If Walmart decides that they're going to get rid of all the cash registers and just have self-checkout, they're going to put everybody out of a job and they're never going to think about you. When it comes to business, business will do what business will do. And in pro wrestling, one thing that we always talk about in pro wrestling is respect. Respect matters so much more than relevance here. And R-Truth was trained by old school people, right? R-Truth didn't start wrestling last week. So R-Truth it's built on respect for him. And I think respect matters much more here than relevance. It doesn't feel shocking if you've been in the business. Looking at the whole contract thing, the way how business was just business, it's not shocking to me. It's business. But for maybe you as a fan, let me know. Was it unsettling for you because of the challenges? Because it challenges the idea of earned safety? You know, even at the job that you work at, you still have a little bit of safety. Just a little bit. Just a smidge, right? Just a smidge. But in the WWE, do you still have that same exact thing? Because, you know, technically they're not employees. They are independent contractors. They don't work for the WWE. They work with the WWE because they get a 1099. They don't get health benefits and all the other frivolous stuff that a regular person that has a regular 9-to-5 job somewhere in corporate America has. It wasn't shocking seeing what happened with R-Truth. I have negotiated things before. Sometimes you gotta be a little cutthroat. See the little Jamaican started coming. I'm gonna say cutthroat. I meant cutthroat. You gotta be just a little bit cutthroat when it comes to discussing, you know, the contract, the money. You know, here's the question that I asked myself after R-Truth got fired. Because let me tell you this, I went on record with my bold face. When John Cena and R-Truth had that match, I think it was at Saturday night's main event. I went with my bold face on the camera. And you know what I said? I said, wow, R-Truth is always going to have a job. And then the next day they released the guy. Here's the question I asked myself. If it can happen to R-Truth, someone who's universally loved by the audience and the people that work with him, then the story isn't just him. This is not just unique to R-Truth. This can happen to anybody. Anybody. Think about this when you go to your job today, or maybe you're sitting at your job at your lunch break and you're watching. Think about it. Yo, that could happen to you in your regular job. This episode does not humanize contracts. It normalizes them. Look, it's just the nature of the beast. WWE no longer, one thing that they don't do, WWE no longer does that I've noticed, and maybe I might be wrong, tell me where I'm wrong, you know, because this is two-way. We talk with each other, not just each other. And we got that poll going on right now. The poll is asking, did episode 2 make WWE feel more human or more corporate? One thing that WWE doesn't do anymore is that they don't publicly tell you that a person's been future endeavored. It's not something that happens anymore. Why? I don't know. So the language has shifted from optics and negotiation framing. This isn't cold. This is corporate reality. Let's give the chat a little bit of love. Chris Gallegos is back. Says WWE's a flop. Stephanie McMahon doesn't know anything about wrestling. WWE's a quagmire like AEW. I still support Triple H in his war with Tony Khan and AEW.
Yeah!
Kevin Abreu says, what's going on, Kevin? Kevin says, I guarantee under Mr. McMahon, R-Truth fired, please. No. You know, I think that under Vince McMahon, would R-Truth had gotten fired? Maybe not. I don't know. You know, like it is a different WWE now. You know, like, but here's the thing that makes me mad. Here's the thing that makes me upset about R-Truth. R-Truth is the funny man. Granted, there always has to be the funny man, right? There's always got to be, you know, in a movie where it's comedy, right, and it's a duo. Pro wrestling's always involving more than one person. There has to be your straight man and your funny man, right? Your straight man is the guy that's just like serious, and your funny man, you know, is your joke guy. R-Truth is always the joke guy. Eddie Murphy was always the joke guy, but even Eddie Murphy had his opportunity to be serious. R-Truth had his opportunity to be serious. When R-Truth came back as Ron the Truth Killings or whatever he wanted to come back as, that was an opportunity right there. What happened with it? I don't know. Maybe I guess WWE decided that they want to go in a separate direction. I don't know. I feel like it was a huge missed opportunity for R-Truth. What's missing is in the whole entire episode for me, right? Because they also talked about Naomi. Naomi, the episode title was named Truth, right? So it wasn't just about R-Truth. They got to talk about Naomi as well too. I feel that her pregnancy didn't get talked about. We didn't get Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks. We didn't get her side of the walkout. But this is all about contracts and agreeing. Both sides have to walk away feeling like they gave something. When I'm negotiating with you with whatever it is, right? I'm negotiating with you every time I put up a new episode. I'm putting up a thumbnail. I'm putting up a title. I'm putting up a description. I'm promoting it on social media, on X, on Threads, on Facebook, wherever you found it. Or, you know what, if you're just clicking along on YouTube and you just happen to see this, I'm negotiating with you. I'm negotiating your time, right? And by the end of this, in order for you to come back, you got to feel like you got something. So one of the things that I like to give is the opportunity for you to come and voice your opinions, right? You gave a little bit of time to me, and I gave you the ability to come and voice your opinions about pro wrestling. Same exact thing when it comes to contract negotiations. Both sides have to walk away feeling like they gave, but they got, right? When it comes to loyalty, there's no loyalty when it comes to contracts. I don't think there's any loyalty when it comes to negotiation. You guys don't have any loyalty to me because I feel that every single episode that I do, I have to re-earn your loyalty. I have to earn the click. I have to earn the subscribe. There's no loyalty in the contracts. So when you're looking at WWE, when they were talking about R-Truth, when Naomi walked out, right, with Sasha Banks, here's the question. What does loyalty actually buy you? What does loyalty actually buy you? Does it buy you comfort? Does it buy you goodwill? Does it just buy you some time? Kevin says that I like the dark side of the ring more compared to WWE Unreal. Can I be honest with you, Kevin? I don't feel that WWE Unreal is fully real. I feel that WWE Unreal has a portion of manufactured moments in it. unlike Dark Side of the Ring, to where it's just a 60-minute documentary show, right? A 50-some-odd minute documentary show on Vice. I think they're both in different lanes. They're on the same highway, but I think that Unreal and Dark Side of the Ring is different highways. I think as well, too, I don't think I know. WWE Unreal has to remain in kind of this corporate envelope that it's in. When you're looking at Dark Side of the Ring, they're like, hey, look, you're watching Dark Side of the Ring because you want to see the dirt. You want to see the dirt. In WWE Unreal, we're watching the dirt, but honestly, they're only giving us the dirt that they want us to get. I want to see something about WWE Unreal, right? I want to see this. I want to see if this could prove a point for me. I want to see the production staff. Let's see. Who is the production staff? Not top cast. I want to know who. There we go. Cast. Is there anybody from WWE in it? Cast, Triple H, writers, directors. Who's the producer? That's all I want to know. Who is the producer? They got a lot of wrestlers in there. All right, so you don't have any WWE people that I can see on there from first glance. But it does get the opportunity to where it can be scrubbed somehow, right? To where it can be whitewashed. Stu is here. Stu says the Dark Side of the Ring is amazing. The New Jack episode is probably one of their best episodes. I'm gonna tell you something about New Jack in a second. Let me just go through the chat. Chris says if Naomi comes back, she will reclaim the women's world title again. I don't see why she wouldn't. Chris says if Liv Morgan wins the title at WrestleMania, she better keep it for Naomi to go after her. That'd be a long time. Stu says that Unreal is filled to dirt. I agree. That's where, for me,
Thank you.
It feels like it's kind of manufactured in certain ways. We're not getting all of what we could get. And we're going to talk about the Naomi and the Mercedes Moné story a little bit more. I touched on it just a little bit. We're going to be talking about that in just a little bit more. But it's filled to dirt. The quick story about Dark Side of the, about New Jack. I wrestled a show with New Jack, and I ain't gonna lie, man. I heard all the stuff about New Jack. New Jack is real. New Jack is, excuse me for what I'm about to say. It's 12:23 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. I'm about to say some real stuff right now. Yo, New Jack is real shit. Like, I don't think that anything that I've ever heard, like, sometimes you hear the myth about people, the public persona about somebody, and then you really meet that person, but he's different. No, let me tell you, New Jack was real shit. I didn't think for a second that New Jack probably wouldn't stab me in the heart. I ain't gonna lie. And I was so glad I didn't have to work him. Nope. Look, I'm gonna keep it 100. I don't do hardcore matches or those kind of blood matches. And if that's what they wanted me to do with him, I wasn't doing it with him. Kevin says, I paid more to see WWE Unreal with Mr. McMahon getting angry backstage with everybody, like the rumor says. I would pay to see that as well, too. I'm upset that, well, let me tell you something about how I see the WWE now with Unreal versus how I envision WWE Unreal to be if Vince McMahon was there. When Vince McMahon was there, you knew he was in the back, or you always assumed he was in the back, but you never heard Vince McMahon on the cold opens. He never did the voiceovers. He never did the let me sit and talk to the press, right? If you wanted to hear Vince McMahon's voice, you had to listen to like the earnings calls with WWE. Triple H isn't everything like Salt, right? You always see Triple H. You hear Triple H in the cold opens. Triple H is always posting something on social media. Okay. And I'm not being disrespectful to Triple H. I respect Triple H for what he's done and what he's doing in the ring and out the ring. But WWE already has a social media platform. You think that somebody's following Triple H and not following WWE? Why does Triple H have to be the one to break the news? Why does Triple H still have to be on the camera? If WWE Unreal came out when Vince McMahon was in charge, you wouldn't see Vince McMahon on the camera. I guarantee that. Chris said that Vince McMahon gave the WWE FE fans what they wanted, sometimes. Stu says that WWE Unreal is only interesting when they talk about how they lay out certain finishes to matches or how matches don't go as planned. The rest doesn't seem genuine to me.
Thank you.
Kevin says that he agrees with me with that part. I agree, Triple H is everywhere. Bro, Triple H is everywhere. They might as well change the name from WWE to HHH. He's everywhere. Every time you see Triple H. Don't get it wrong. Triple H is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. But if Triple H is not in the ring, if Triple H is not an on-screen personality, he's the brains behind the operation. I don't want to hear from the brains. Hire somebody else or find somebody else in the WWE to do the cold open. Why does the cold open have to be Triple H? Stu says that he said that he found how they lay out matches to finishes. It's you're only getting a sample of what it takes to put into a match, right? Because when you put into a match, it's like when you're putting together a match, Stu, it's like building a cake, baking a cake. You don't build a cake. And there's certain things that you have to do in certain steps when you're baking a cake, right? If you're going to bake a cake, you typically need flour, eggs, milk, baking powder. I don't know. I don't bake cakes unless it's box cake. Milk, oil, and you can take a whole bag of flour, mix it with a little bit of water, a lot of oil, a lot of sugar, put a little bit of frosting and put it in the oven. It's not going to come out like anything. But when it comes to putting together an actual pro wrestling match, and you know what slots you have to fill, the 4 slots you usually have to fill is the shine, where the babyface establishes that he's the good guy. You know, the heel, it establishes that the babyface is actually a better wrestler than the heel. Not saying that the heel is too terrible of a wrestler, but he just keeps getting bested by the babyface, so then he has to cheat. So then we go into the heat. The heat is where the heel is the one that's running the show. Where you see John Cena, you know, getting beat up by Brock Lesnar. That's the heat, right? And then you get the comeback to where you go, oh my God, the babyface is getting ready to make that comeback. He's getting ready to win. And then you have your finish where you see the person wins or lose, right? So now that you know that basis, now you got to put things in there that make sense, right? Once you understand that the formula, Pro Wrestling 101, Stu, Pro Wrestling 101 is shine, heat, comeback, finish. You want to know if anybody knows anything about anything in pro wrestling, right? Any wrestlers, and they're like, oh yeah, I just started wrestling. I always ask them, cool. You know, I said, what do you want to do for, the heat? You know, they're like, oh, I mean, what do you want to do for the shine? Oh no, you just take over and do what? No. I'm the heel. I don't start the match, right? Because they're like, yeah, one guy told me one time, for the shine, he wanted me to come into the ring and just beat him up, and then he would just make his comeback on me, and that's the finish. I'm like, no, that's so stupid. That's so stupid. Now, once you understand the formula of the match, shine, heat, comeback, and finish, you can manipulate it, right? Now, this is what you might see in WWE. You might see Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes. You know they already got beef, right? So they don't have to lock up. All they do is they immediately go to fighting right away. And what happens is that you can start with the heat. Let Drew McIntyre be on top, right? And then you switch to where Cody Rhodes is now back into the shine. And then you go back into the heat. You can do a false comeback, right? To where you think Cody Rhodes is getting ready to come back and Drew McIntyre cuts him off, right? And then they go back into the heat. Then they go into the comeback and into the finish, and you could throw false finishes in there. That's the part they're not telling you in Unreal. They're only telling you hey, we're at the end. But they're not telling you how you get there. That is Pro Wrestling 101. Chris says that Vince never put his face on press conferences or on posters like Triple H. You didn't hear from Vince McMahon at all. Stu said that Triple H got his own 2K26 edition. Last year, he was the only Hall of Famer who got video packages every show and multiple different video packages at that. Chris says that WWE Royal Rumble was a Power Rangers movie.
Yeah!
And I love the Power Rangers movie. It's a great movie. So we're going to go back to talking about Unreal, right? Because that's what we were talking about before. We're talking about the contracts with R-Truth, with Naomi, right? What does loyalty actually buy you? We're talking about episode 2 of Unreal. It's called The Truth. What does loyalty actually buy you? Comfort, goodwill, or just time? I think that loyalty could buy you a little bit of both, but it's on the discretion of somebody else. What's up, Fernando? And that brings us to the next deliberate contrast that WWE makes next. Fernando, for a little bit, I don't know when you got here, but I did pull the rabbit out of the hat a little bit and let you guys know the formula of a pro wrestling match, because Stu said that he did find it interesting how, you know, they get to talk about the finishes of the matches, but everything else he felt was manufactured. And I kind of talked about the formula of a match and what's missing. Stu also says that the line about Naomi and Truth's situation being the same legit made me mad. Yeah, I can get that. So let's talk about Naomi. Naomi, her story, I don't think her story is about empowerment. I think that for Naomi's story, that it's strategic survival, right? So when you look at her with R-Truth, right? Stu says that he didn't like the comparison between. Let me give the exact word. I don't like to misquote people. The line about R-Truth situation, Naomi being situations the same. I think the placement was intentional. It was two people who were unhappy with the WWE, right? They took two superstars and positioned them as somebody who was unhappy with the WWE. In the first season, they had a lot of, the first episode of season 2, they had a lot of moving parts. Lyra Valkyrie, Seth Rollins, Pat McAfee, Becky Lynch. But in this episode, they really had two main people. It was Naomi, but more so R-Truth. And then they used everybody else to explain the relationships between the two main people. Which is why this episode to me felt a little bit more chaotic to me. And I felt like I got more time to breathe. To tell the stories, right? The name of the episode is The Truth. Same episode title, different outcomes. When Naomi became a heel, when she got the caution, right? It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. I honestly think for Naomi, it was something that had to happen, right? Now Naomi left, and, you know, I am not going to lie. I don't think that Naomi, as the dancing person, as the glow person, I don't think that it was working anymore. I think that it had a ceiling. I think that Naomi had to go to this. The glow gimmick had a ceiling. Naomi had to go to this. Naomi controls her narrative, though, talking about the walkout with her and Sasha Banks, now known as Mercedes Moné in AEW. But just like everybody else feels that Unreal is manufactured, I feel like this moment was not only manufactured, but we only got a portion of it, right? We only got two sides. We got the corporate side, you know, from the people that lived it. We got some wrestler side from Jimmy Uso, her husband, and then we got her side. But there's really one side that's missing, maybe even two. You're missing the side of Vince McMahon and the other side of Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. And what I respect, though, is that Naomi didn't go on there to go tell anybody else's story other than her own. She could have went on there and said, oh, well, you know, blah, 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 and told both sides of the story from her mouth. But she told the side that she was more familiar with, her side, right? She told it to us as she lived it. And here's the thing that concerned me about that whole episode, right? WWE Unreal positions itself as being unreal, as being, you know, the real to the unreal. And I think that the name of the show itself is a telltale of what it is. It's unreal. It's not real what we're watching. What are they saying that it's not unreal? Is WWE, what we see in the ring is unreal? Or what we're seeing in the show Unreal is unreal? I think it's a little bit of both. Because we got a WWE Unreal is a tell-all show. And in a tell-all show, restraint is power. But I think they restrained it a little bit too much. The sad part is that Mercedes Moné doesn't work for the WWE and was never even probably thought about, hey, let's get her here just to see what she says. Maybe we could get a statement or something, because I would love to hear her side of the story. I don't think that Mercedes Moné ever told her side of the story. Fernando says that these Unreal shows are overrated. Fernando also says that he hated the glow and the dancing gimmick. Sasha Banks made Naomi relevant at the time.
Yeah!
Bro, I agree with you 100%. 100%. I think that we can't, that's where a term in pro wrestling that we call the rub, right? It's not saying that Naomi wasn't a star, right? Because I'm sure if Naomi walked around Walmart at the time, she would stop people and people go, oh my God, it's Naomi. But I don't think that she was a bigger star as Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, I'm going to use the name interchangeable. I don't want to have to keep going back and forth. But Sasha Banks was the bigger star. She was more decorated. She wrestled in NXT, worked her way up and whatever. Granted, Naomi got more time in the job, but I think that Naomi got the rub from Sasha Banks. 100%. Fernando says that Fernando says that I think that everything on Unreal is a work. I'm not going to watch next season. It's becoming lame. They're actually coming out with, from what they say on Netflix, there's supposed to be more later in the summer. I still, even though I feel that it's a work, right? One of the things that I'm going to tell you right now, Fernando, is that still watch. Because there are parts of it that are very real. And sometimes you'll kind of understand the why behind the want, or why some things happened. And one of the things I really wish they explained was why R-Truth came back as like this heel character and then they just dropped it. Why? The guy reinvented himself, right? The same way that Naomi reinvented herself. We understood why R-Truth cut his hair. We understood that. But tell us why the gimmick didn't work, why they dropped it, why did he come back as Ron the Truth Killings? And then maybe like a week later, he was just R-Truth again. And then disappeared from TV, going back to being goofy. The thing with reinvention, though, reinvention is necessary. Reinvention is not new. It's not new. Look at Hogan. Hulk Hogan reinvented himself, right? He wanted to be a heel. He thought that he should be a heel in the WWF. And Vince McMahon said, nah, brother, I don't think that's a good move. So then Hogan went to WCW and became a heel. Granted, a lot of things happened. He didn't just go from WWF to WCW. Because I know people are watching this going, oh my God, that guy's wrong. He's wrong. Hogan didn't go from WWF to WCW. He went to go make movies and TV shows and then went to WCW. I know that. But since I had to explain it. Hulk Hogan went over to WCW, became the third man, joined the NWO, and turned the pro wrestling business on its head. Stone Cold Steve Austin, he did a reinvention from the Ringmaster when he won the 1996, 1995, 1996 King of the Ring, when it was supposed to be Triple H, but it wasn't Triple H because of the curtain call. And then Austin reinvented himself and became the anti-hero. And then look at John Cena, Mr. Rappin' in Shorts. Mr. Rappin' in Shorts himself, and now look at John Cena. We have to admit, regardless if you love John Cena or you hate John Cena, you got to admit that he's the greatest of all time. The guy was on top of the business and got to write his own ending. The two people I mentioned before didn't get that. Hulk Hogan didn't get to write his own ending when he left pro wrestling, and neither did Stone Cold Steve Austin. Talking about reinvention, what about Roman Reigns, right? Just in 2018, 2019, they had Roman Reigns handcuffed to the turnbuckle, to the ring post on SmackDown, being fed dog food by Baron Corbin. And look at Roman Reigns now. Not one person probably remembers the dog food if I didn't mention it, right? It's well beyond your memory. So some people survive WWE by reinventing themselves, and others just survive it by enduring it. Where does R-Truth come in, right? I think R-Truth just endures and just hangs around and stays while he can. Kevin says, right now, Mercedes Moné don't care if she's making a lot of money and having fun.
Yeah!
I started pro wrestling school in 2007. Team 3D Academy, Dudley Boys, Bub and Devon. Those were my trainers. And then I moved to New York. I started training with Nunzio. And then I was wrestling on the indies, and it just stopped being fun. It just stopped being fun, wrestling. To me, wrestling started feeling more like a job. And for me, the way that my whole mindset is set up, I don't want another job, right? Because I already have a regular job that I go to. I want something that I can do, that I can go work, but it's not work, it's fun, and I make a little bit of money, not life-changing money, a little bit of money at the same exact time. That's what wrestling was like for me. But when it stopped being like that for me, I decided to leave in 2012? I think I left for about 3 years. And then I came back in 2015-ish. Maybe that's what Mercedes Moné, maybe what Sasha Banks is feeling in the WWE, right? It's like, they always say, don't meet your heroes because they might disappoint you. Maybe WWE was her hero. And when she got there, she was disappointed. It's not what she thought it would be, right? I've been in situations to where I've wanted a job, and I got there, and I'm like, damn, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I signed up for, but I'm here until something else better comes along, and I'm gone. And yes, they say grass is not green on the other side, right? It may not be green on the other side. It's greenest the way you water it, and I think that Mercedes Moné is watering the grass in AEW, doing whatever it is that she wants. Mercedes Moné was able to build a name for herself in the WWE, and because she was able to build a name for herself in the WWE, that gave her some negotiation power in AEW, to where she could say, hey, I want to do this, and that. Kevin says, give me legit Unreal footage from backstage heat between Booker T and Batista, Edge, Matt Hardy, and many others. Kevin, at that time, you would have never seen it. You know why? The business was not like that back then. Granted, Beyond the Mat already let the cat out of the bag as far as it comes to the kayfabe, the stuff that happened in the locker room. But you would have never seen that. The business was still a little bit too protected. Still a lot of respect in the business. I'm not going to lie. When I started in 2007 and when I started wrestling shows in 2009, I wouldn't dare sit here and tell you guys anything about pro wrestling, right? I'm like, if you want to know anything about pro wrestling, take your money just like I did and go give it to a wrestling school teacher. Good luck. Have fun. I wasn't telling you anything. I used to have women that I used to date. We lived together. There was 2 women that I dated while I lived together while I was wrestling. And I never explained anything about wrestling to them. Maybe small things, but nothing they can take and go run with it and be like, yeah, I really understand wrestling now. But if any of those women ever found this channel today, and if they do find the channel, what's up, guys? If they found the channel today, they'd probably be shocked by how much information I'd be giving away. You know, one of my exes would ask me, hey, what did you learn today? And what did you guys do today in our pro wrestling school? We wrestled. That was it. We trained. Oh, what, did you guys work on any specific moves? You know. Wasn't answering any of her questions. So, seeing something like Matt Hardy and all that other stuff in the locker room, you would have never seen that. Never. It was too protected. Now, I'll tell you 99% of the things, because the things that I'm telling you are not things that you can't go Google yourself. The things that I'm telling you are not things that you can't hear from people that made way more money than I did. So who the hell am I to be like, well, I'm going to protect the business. And look, man, the business is already out of the bag, right? But here's the thing, though, right? The thing that I see about pro wrestling, I hate when people try to downplay pro wrestling fans by saying pro wrestling is fake. We know as pro wrestling fans that pro wrestling is predetermined. We know as pro wrestling fans that somebody sat around somewhere with a pencil and eraser and decided who was going to win and lose tonight. But when those same people that judge us go ahead and watch the Avengers, they go ahead and, oh my God, you saw the new Avengers movie that came out? Can't wait. Oh my God, they're going to be redoing Superman. I always say, if you think there's a man swinging around New York City on spider webs in a spider costume, I said, there's something wrong with you. If you ever look out your window, and you see a man standing outside your window in a spider costume, I said, call the cops and check yourself into the mental asylum. Because you can't say 1 and 2 is not the same. Pro wrestling is entertainment. Let's see. Fernando says that just because John Cena rapped in shorts doesn't make him the GOAT. Is WWE paying you to keep telling us that he's the GOAT? He was lucky to have never seriously injured. I think that John Cena is the greatest of all time, in my opinion, because he helped carry the WWE when Austin left, when Triple H was there, but Triple H needed somebody to go against him. John Cena is the greatest of all time because he helped build people with him, right? John Cena wasn't some guy who they just found on a football field and said, hey, come try this wrestling. It's something that he wanted to do. I think that John Cena is the greatest of all time because of his legendary run, because of his title run. Granted, somebody wrote the story and made it what it is, but some people think that Star Wars is the greatest movie of all time, and I hate Star Wars. Sorry, I don't like Star Wars. Can't get into it, but somebody wrote that. So, I think he's the greatest of all time. Does WWE pay me? Look, Fernando, I wish that WWE paid me to talk about wrestling all day, but they don't. So I come on here and I give my own unfiltered, unadulterated comments and views about how I feel about the thing. That's it. And Fernando, if WWE's doing great, we're going to say it here. And if WWE's not doing great, we're going to say it here as well, too. We are unapologetically who we are. Fernando says that Stone Cold was never booed the way Cena was. WCW went out of business before Stone Cold got over. What? No, Fernando. No. That is not true. Stone Cold Steve Austin helped keep WWF profitable. He helped keep WWF in business. When the tide started turning, when Mick Foley won the championship, that's when the tide started turning. He said Stone Cold got over. Let me read the whole comment. Fernando says that Stone Cold was never booed the way Cena was. WCW almost went out of business before Stone Cold Steve Austin got over. When did Cena save an entire company? I'll wait. During the PG era. He was the face of the PG era. I'm not saying that every single match that John Cena had, they trusted John Cena with a particular job. And one of the particular jobs that they trusted John Cena with was trying to make stars. He tried to make the Great Khali. And if you ask me, I don't know what ever happened with that. I think that there would be no Edge the way that we know it without John Cena. That was a foil. They needed each other. I think that there would be no, Drew McIntyre. What's the other guy name that does the announcing as well now? The guy that was in the Nexus. All of those guys had to be cut on John Cena. John Cena set the standard. He made the playbook that Cody Rhodes is following right now. Stu says that Cena broke his neck. That guy, that's a pretty serious injury. He's just a generic monster, so it healed pretty quick. Cena is the GOAT because he is available. And Stu says being available isn't the same as being a yes man.
Yeah!
Cena reinvented himself. I think I was more in tune with John Cena when he was more of the rapper, because I was a lot young and really into hip-hop at the time, growing up in the Bronx. But when he started in the middle of his, I'll be honest, when I went to pro wrestling school and I saw that John Cena only had 5 moves of doom. 5 moves of doom. I used to poop on John Cena as well too. I said, if I ever went out there and wrestled like John Cena, only did 5 moves, I said nobody would ever book me. But at the time, I didn't understand, right? That it's not about the moves. It's about the story that you tell. When you look at any great movie or read any great book, you can't remember word for word. You might remember key lines, but you won't remember word for word. But you remember the moments that happened in the match. You remember how you felt in the match. And John Cena, even though he had 5 moves of doom, as a young wrestler, I thought it was trash. But as somebody with a little bit of time on the job, I'm like, you know what? It was the stories that he told, right? And pro wrestling stories take multiple people to write. And sometimes the people that he wrote the stories with weren't that good, great colleague. Fernandez said that there was no ratings war when Cena started wrestling. WWE almost died before Stone Cold got over. You're right. You're right. You're not lying about that. Stu says, yeah, Fern, that's crazy. Austin was at peak in 97. WCW was dead in 1999, 2000, with the final nail in the coffin in 2001.
Yeah!
Fernandez says, admit it, Tristan. Cena's rhymes were terrible. Vanilla Ice was better than him. Okay. I'll be honest. They weren't great. But for me, it was still hip-hop. I watched a show back in the early 2000s on MTV. It was called the Lyricist Lounge Show. And it was pretty much Saturday Nights Live, Mad TV, all that meets hip-hop. They would just rhyme the whole entire time, right? John Cena wasn't that, but you got to remember as well, too, that the WWE wasn't a hip-hop crowd, right? WWE was really rock and roll at the time, and John Cena was different. So, ooh, I'm choking. If John Cena was out there, you know, laying on raps like Twister, the people would never get it. So he had to do it nice and slow. Nice and slow. I don't think that Vanilla Ice is better. Vanilla Ice is a little bit before my time. But what we're talking about today is WWE Unreal. Look, I love the interaction. I love that talking about this one episode of Unreal sparks different ideas. Next week, Wednesday, we're going to be watching and talking about episode 3 of Unreal. I've already watched Unreal the whole entire season 2 weeks ago, and I started watching every episode back one by one so I can go ahead and talk about it with you guys. So I'm glad that you guys are here. On Friday at 12:30 p.m., we're having no live Tristan Law show, but hold on. We're going to be having main event conversations with Cheyenne Ortiz. There's going to be another episode of that live about 12:30. Make sure you put on the notifications so when it goes live, you can see it. He's going to be interviewing Steve Off. Steve Off is a good friend of mine. Steve Off is somebody who's been in the pro wrestling business since 2003. He's done work with the WWE, and I think he'd be a great person for you guys to meet. You know, like, yeah, I can try to get, like, WWE guys on here and AEW guys on here, but I'm more interested in introducing you to the guys who you don't know, right? Because a lot of the things that you guys, and we all agree on, is that, you know, we're not happy with the WWE sometimes, and we're not happy with AEW all the time, so I'm trying to give you guys a different lane to where you can find different things that you can watch. So I'm introducing you to Steve Off tomorrow. He is the co-founder of on Friday at 12:30. He's the co-founder of Pro Wrestling Magic. You can look him up on YouTube and on social media. Tell him that I sent you. And he's a 20-plus year veteran in the WWE. He's got a little bit more time than me. I think he's got 4 or 5 more years on the job than me. Stu says that Twister is oh, yeah, okay, my bad.
Yeah!
My bad, Stu. My bad. Stu says it's not Twister, it's Twista. Yo, bro, look. I did grow up in the Bronx, but my mother was so hell-bent on us speaking properly, right? But yeah, it's Twista. But, you know, if I was talking about him, yeah, it's Twister. Damn, Stu. Stu, leave me alone. GTA for life. Can't wait till GTA 7 comes in. He says, you as a pro wrestler, right? How many times have you botched a move? Lots of times. When the key thing about botching a move is never selling it, right? the people that know what is happening in the ring, the two wrestlers, right? You wouldn't go, oh my God, you messed up. You just keep moving. But here's the thing you got to think about as well too, right? Because pro wrestling is underneath this microscope to where it's just supposed to be perfect. It's just supposed to be perfect. That's what all the fans think. That botches are not supposed to happen. I think if anybody feels that botches shouldn't happen in pro wrestling, it probably means that you've never been in a real fight in your life. You never got into a real fight and got a botch. So, looking at and thank you for your comments. Stu in here calling me Uncle Tris. Episode 2 is where Unreal stops celebrating and starts exposing. Episode 1, it felt like family and legacy. Episode 2, it felt like contracts and clocks. That's what it felt like. WWE isn't accidentally exposing the business. They're choosing. Remember I said this to you. They're choosing which tricks to show you. They're not showing us everything. They're only giving us a sprinkle of everything because there's so much more. The thing is that we believe in a pro wrestling business that less is more. If we give you everything right now, what is there it for us to give you later on? Huh? As my mother would say, if you eat everything today, what are you going to have tomorrow? So you take a little bit now so you have a little bit tomorrow. The thing everybody needs to understand about WWE exposing the business, right, is that no matter which pro wrestling company you like, WWE is the North Star for pro wrestling. When WWE shifts the entire industry, it recalibrates. Everybody's looking at what WWE is doing with Unreal, and everybody in the industry is thinking, well, how can we do that? It's not the first show to expose the wrestling business. This is the first show exposing the wrestling business by the North Star of pro wrestling. This isn't new. Beyond the Mat did this, what, 30 years ago? 20 years ago? 25 years ago? So what WWE is doing now with Unreal is they're just controlling what you see. They're controlling the lens. And that brings us to the quiet theme that's running underneath everything. The episode isn't about age. It's all about timing. Some of the things that I think that WWE values, they value work ethic, reliability, and how people feel about you. I think that 49% of it is work value, 49% of it is reliability, and 2% of it is how people feel about you, right? Because if the people don't like you, you know, but the office likes you, I think that you'll still be good, right? One of the things that I learned about when I was in pro wrestling school is that you always got to be reliable, right? You always got your word. We're not signing contracts in indie wrestling. A lot of it is handshakes or through a text. Yeah, I can make that date. So reliability is everything. Your work ethic is everything. Always be on time, right? So age in this episode of Unreal, it isn't framed as wisdom or liability. It's a context. For R-Truth, to get some insight, to give some insight on R-Truth, his tenure, it gives him equity, but it doesn't give him immunity. If he was younger, the moment might not even have mattered at all. Everybody would have said, well, you know what, R-Truth got released, he can go someplace else and go make money elsewhere. But R-Truth is up there in age, right? About a couple months older than John Cena, right? So if he leaves now, where does he go? AEW, and does what? Now we're turning AEW into WCW, where all the old people went to go play, right? Even though in pro wrestling, you're much better at 40 than you were at 20. The truth isn't about contracts. It's about when the clock starts ticking. And then there's the moment that hits the hardest. There's a lot of reality checks in here, a lot of emotional moments in there, right? Like Road Dogg, Brian James, the co-lead head writer of SmackDown, discussing his addiction, his relationship with R-Truth. The idea that sometimes you think that you're saving someone and they're actually saving you. For me, that was the moment for me. I was like, damn. You thought that you were saving R-Truth, but he was saving you. That raw emotion and the reason why it works is because raw emotion equals connection. I love a raw emotion in a television show. And when I'm producing shows, I'm always like, yo, let the emotion bake in. I did an episode of the Tristan Law show way back, might have been season 1 or season 2, and the guest started crying. He started crying out of frustration doing the interview. And what did I do? Let's let him go. Let's let him go. It's not about me at all when I'm interviewing somebody, and that moment's definitely not about me. There's no words that I can say that will help the episode happen. So just, you know what, just lay out and just let it happen. This is the most unreal moment of that episode. The unintentional reveal, though, what was Truth being brought back at the Royal Rumble. And the thing for me that felt like, oops, we weren't supposed to see that, was the heels embracing him off camera. That moment wasn't meant for us, and I think that's why it mattered. Kevin says that botch is going to happen. Everybody here is we're human. Yeah. Stu says that when I saw R-Truth's tweet, I wanted him to go to AEW and have him join Mark Briscoe or have his debut with him confused backstage in AEW looking for Triple H and he runs into Don Callis. That would have been funny. That was fun. That would have been great. He said, but a man can dream.
Yeah!
Looking at the poll, the survey that I asked, did episode 2 make WWE feel more human or more corporate? 83% of the audience says more corporate. 17% say neither. Episode 1 told us that nobody takes days off. Episode 2 tells us what happens when the days start running out. This wasn't about exposing the WWE. It was about accepting reality. And episode 3, it might just show us who WWE is really building around. The bottom line is that this wasn't the truth. Granted, the name of the episode was called The Truth. It was about the version of the truth that WWE is comfortable letting you see. Well, that's another episode of the Tristan Law Show. We'll be back next week with more pro wrestling action that you can talk about live together on Friday at 12:30 p.m. Set your reminders. We're going to have another episode of Main Event Conversations with Cheyenne Ortiz. Steve Off is going to be his guest. I'll be here producing, so make sure you watch that. I want to thank our Fernando, Stu, Kevin, and everybody else that watch. I'm Tristan Law. This is the Tristan Law Show, and I'll see you next time.
Windowless ride, feeling alive, nothing in sight, forever in flight.